because I just cannot believe that we have reached this point in this country where ATF is seizing toys and then refusing to make themselves accountable for their actions. You know, we could get into the details of this particular story. Before we do that, some of the more general observations I might make is the whole reason we have a government in the first place, right up front there in the Constitution, is to secure the blessings of liberty. And somewhere in all of this, with the government taking over more and more aspects of our lives, and with more and more regulations, particularly over firearms, we've also lost sight of the words shall not be infringed. They don't even seem to enter the equation anymore. But when you have federal agencies seizing property from American citizens and then refusing to discuss it with the media, which are supposed to be the watchdogs of the government, refusing to discuss it with citizens. You know, they told the owner of the airsoft shop that he could file a Freedom of Information Act request if he wanted to know what their testing procedures were. It's unacceptable. And I do note that this particular shop, the Airsoft Outlet Northwest, and I did a search for them. If you just put that into the search bar and do that, it'll take you to their website. And they are asking people who support them to contact the Department of Justice Inspector General. So that's certainly something that I would encourage all of your viewers to look that up and to go ahead and take that action.
You know, David, the issue is I can understand where someone might look at the weapon and maybe become confused about whether it's real or whether it's a toy. But it is well designed with the tip on it to obviously make it a toy gun. So maybe I can understand. Maybe I can understand the ATF going, well, you know, that looks like a real gun. I mean, if somebody walked into a store and held it up, you know, you might spook somebody with that. Okay, I'm willing to say, okay, but go out and look at it. Now, when you go beyond looking at it and understanding it's not a real gun, and you begin seizing private property, basically, is what we're talking about here. And now you've crossed over the line, and I think that's what you're trying to point out to us.
Well, and again, you know, the owner of the airsoft store did say that, you know what, we've had in the past where these things have come in from foreign suppliers and they haven't had the orange tip on them, and so we've gone out and we've corrected that before they ever, you know, get into our inventory for retail sale, before we ever put them on the wall. But the bottom line is that U.S. Customs and Border Protection issued a press release on this, and they called them machine guns. And ATF has seized them, and they say that these are readily convertible into machine guns. And I guess if you don't define what readily convertible or easily convertible means, you know, then anything is readily and easily convertible into a machine gun, particularly you know, the semi-automatics that are out there. You could take a real AR, you know, 15, and if you put it in the hands of a competent gunsmith with the appropriate tools and the appropriate materials, at some point in time, he can effect a conversion. But it's certainly not something that's easy or ready or something that, you know, a person who is not knowledgeable of this is going to do. And when you take it a step further removed and apply this to toys that, you know, would not withstand any of the pressures or temperatures of a real firearm. I mean, you know, supposedly, even if you could mill and drill this thing and get it to accept trigger packs and fit it into an upper receiver and get this thing to fire, it would blow up in your face. And all you have to do is look at the first video that KOIN Local 6 out of Portland did, where they showed the ATF agent who was making the claim that these things are readily convertible, and he proceeds to insert a magazine backwards. And that tells me much of what I need to know in terms of the credibility of information that we're being presented. But the fact now that they are not forthcoming with information on the whys and the wherefores of this says that they're hiding from this, and you have to ask why. And it goes beyond just this particular incident and what it goes on to. And while I commend the Portland station for their coverage on this, I think that it's refreshing to see a mainstream television station get into the details and give the coverage. By and large, the media has been derelict in terms of reporting grosser and wider abuses by ATF, up to and including there's a website called cleanupatf.org where actual ATF employees are complaining and saying there is not only institutionalized incompetence, but there is actual corruption that is going on in the agency, and why this is not something that is being investigated by our Congress and that is being headlined by the media is something that I can only point to dereliction, because I've called for it on my examiner.com site, but again, I have limited reach, and until the big guys get involved and start shining the light on this, I think we're going to continue to see abuses.
Well, I think you underestimate your reach, number one. But just to go back a little bit, I don't know how much of a gunsmith you are. I'm not much of a gunsmith, but I can tell you, if you took that gun and you went to all that trouble, it would have been easier for you to go out and almost buy something that's a real gun and work on it. I mean, the whole thing sounds like somebody panicked somewhere, went down, did something stupid at a store, and now they're going, wait a minute, how do we backpedal out of this? And there's no easy way to do that, because it's guys like yourself and us, I hope, who see this take place and we go, no, wait a second.
Yeah, I think you have it exactly right. I think that they realize they've stepped in it, and they realize that they can be severely embarrassed by this, and they're trying to minimize it. And it's incumbent on us not to allow them to minimize it, because they have the power to destroy people's lives. And look at what they're doing to this business right now. And so you cannot allow this kind of thing to stand. You have to challenge it when it happens. I mean, James, we're supposed to be Americans here. This is not the way that we're supposed to be living our lives, in fear of our government. And if they can do this to these people, then they can do this to every airsoft store in the country. I mean, why aren't they doing this if they in fact truly believe that this is a threat and that these qualify as being machine guns? And why aren't they trying to round everything up that's been sold on the retail level? Because think of how many tens of thousands of these things are out there right now in the wild. And if they really truly believe that these are readily and easily convertible into machine guns, then I would submit they are not doing their job unless they make a full court press to take this and become a number one priority. Right. And of course, they're not going to do that because,
right. Right, and you and I both know that if this was a real issue, and I'm going to stress the word real here, then ATF would have gathered up every agent, gone to every toy store, and within 24 hours, they would have had several truckloads, many truckloads of toy guns.
If these are actually a threat, where is the industry alert that ATF has put out in the circular that goes to all the wholesalers, all the distributors, everybody like that, and puts them on notice that these things are now illegal and that they must be recalled and that they must be turned in and that they must be whatever? Because now it goes to an even more dangerous situation where once you start doing machine gun transfers, if you introduce the element of willfulness into the equation, now you're talking about serious federal crimes. Of course, that's the way they define them, and people can go away for a very long time. So it almost becomes a matter of, okay, guys, you're serious about this. Put your money where your mouth is. Let's see you follow up with what you would be expected to do if this, in fact, were the threat that you're maintaining that it is, and or otherwise, come clean, guys. Stop it. Knock it off. And this whole thing, James, is just one more illustration of the way we as Americans have been kind of asleep at the switch and allowed our servants to become our masters. And it's past time that we said, knock it off. We are supposed to be the ones in charge. You are supposed to be securing the blessings of liberty. And if you're not doing that, we don't need you.